How you doing? Mr. DJ's back on Billboard's Hot 100 for my 60s YouTube channel. The week of January 13th, 1968. Got a Lost 45 and a half that debuted at number 98 that week. Was not a big hit here in America. Long John Baldry, Let the Heartaches Begin. Long John Baldry, not very well known here in the States, but in England, this guy was one of their prime bluesmen. Although this particular record was not blues at all, more of a mainstream ballad along the lines of, say, Engelbert Humperdinck or Jack Jones. And I'll tell you the two guys who wrote that song in just a minute. But first, a little history of Long John Baldry. The blues all over the place. He was in Alexis Corner's Blues Incorporated. In the early 60s, they put out England's first blues album, 1962, this group did. And a year later, Long John Baldry. And by the way, he was called Long John because he was 6'7". This guy's almost as big as Shaq. He could have played some basketball for the NBA. But he was in a band, Cyril Davis R&B All-Star. That was in 1963. But in 1964, when Cyril, it's C-Y-R-I-L, Cyril Davis died when he died in 64. Long John Baldry took over the band. He called him the Hoochie Coochie Man. And he recruited a singer named Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart, who sang lead for the band Hoochie Coochie Man. Hoochie Coochie Man eventually became Steam Packet, and there were several lead vocalists. There was Julie Driscoll. She was a female vocalist, but the male vocalist in this band was shared between Rod Stewart and Long John Baldry. But then the band broke up in 1966. Long John Baldry formed another band called Bluesology. And the keyboard player in that band, Reginald Dwight, a guy named Reginald Dwight, later had a big name change. There was another guy in that band, Bluesology. His name was Elton Dean. Reginald Dwight took the first name. Long John Baldry took John as the last name, became Elton John. And he left Bluesology around 1966, 1967. Long John Baldry, he was without a backing band. But he came out with this big single in England. Went to #1 in Britain for 2 weeks, Let the Heartaches Begin. The song Let the Heartaches Begin was written by Tony McCauley and John McLeod. These guys were on a roll in England in 1967, 68. They also these two guys together wrote Baby, Now That I Found You by the Foundations. They wrote that record, which went to #1 in Britain. And then this song by Long John Baldry, another song that they wrote, went to #1 in England also. And Tony McCauley, he also co-wrote the song Build Me Up Buttercup, another signature hit for the Foundations. Here is Long John Baldry at number 98. Billboard's Hot 100, January 13th, 1968.